Hello everyone, welcome to today's Q&A, Pickup Vectorworks with Jonathan Pickup. Jonathan is trained as an architect with more 30 years experience, and he has been writing and producing Vectorworks manuals and providing customer support for more than 20 years. His company, ArchonCAD, is the premier provider of third-party manuals and training resources for Vectorworks. He offers monthly webinars for Vectorworks and maintains the Visual Knowledgebase for Vectorworks. Now let me tell you a little bit about Novedge. Novedge is changing the way designers purchase 3D software, offering more choices, more freedom, best advice, and faster service. And as you know, Vectorworks 2021 is here, and there's a promo currently for Service Select customers. And if you are a Service Select customer, you can now enjoy a 50% discount on any new license added to your VSS contract. This promo ends on October 30th, so a few days away. Call us and talk to our expert for eligibility, especially for upgrades as well, because this also translates to upgrades. And if you're not a current Service Select customer, Novedge is offering you a $100 discount coupon to put towards a purchase of a new Vectorworks license. And I'll share the code with you on the chat in a few minutes, and you can use it in your checkout cart, or you can call us for any questions or quote. And now I'm going to share Jonathan's screen in a second so he can address your questions. Here we go. We can all see your screen, Jonathan, but we're not hearing you.
Of course, right. I had myself on mute so that I wouldn't disturb you while I was doing other things, and now I've forgotten to unmute myself. So what I'd like to answer Matthew's question first about the dimensions, so we can get that out of the way. And Matthew, you might notice just at the moment I'm using multiple screens, which is quite cool. I do like using the multiple view panes. I find them really useful. So we're both working on floor 2 at the moment. Sorry, floor 1. One of the things I quite like about these multiple view panes, is when you're dimensioning, how you can create a dimension that goes from one place to another. So if I grab my dimension tool, I can start here, for example. I can start there at the center of that pile there, and I can draw my dimension right across to the other side. When you're working on a big project, Matthew, this is really handy for drawing a big run of dimensions through the building. The other alternative, of course, is use the Z key to zoom in temporarily, but sometimes you need to draw right across. Now let's get out of that, because I'd like to go through dimension styles. So if you just look at the screen at the front of Matthew, just here, you can see you said you're drawing an ISO at the moment. You want to draw an architectural. Just make sure you choose architectural. But my advice to you, Matthew, would be not just to accept the architectural dimension style. If I change, I can change this one as well to Arch. Now you might notice that that dimension doesn't look the same as my one did previously. So the one that I was using previously was the one called plans. There it is there. And it automatically goes to the length that I like. It's got the witness lines. These are called the witness lines. It's got the length of the witness lines that I like. Don't forget, everybody, that if you go to your selection tool, you can grab this little dotted line and you can actually drag those witness lines to the length you want. But the other thing, Matthew, don't just think that I can just leave that on plans, because I've got another one that I've created called site plans, where if you notice, it changes to meter dimensions rather than millimeter dimensions. So both Matthew and I are using meters and millimeters for our standard units, I think. And what I've done is I've created 2 dimension styles. So I'll start with a completely blank file and show you how to make those. Let's go File, New, Blank Document. I don't want to use anything from my template. So the standard way of creating a dimension, you've got this limited set of standards. But you also might remember that when we create text, we have the ability to create specific text size. So this is text. And that text can have a specific font and a specific formatting. So just up here, let's choose format text. I've got Arial Light. I quite like using Arial Narrow. Where's Arial Narrow? Arial Narrow. So I just type in the first 3 letters or the first 2 letters and it finds what I want. So Arial Narrow, let's have a look at what that looks like. Yeah, it's much better. So let's go back to the format text. I'm just using a keyboard shortcut, but it's under text on the menu bar and format text. So I like the style. I'm going to save this. I'm going to call it Arial Narrow 9 point so that I know which one it is. Arial Narrow 9 point. So I've created that text style with single spacing. I better save that again. I didn't realize it was 1.5 spacing. So let's go like that, Arial Narrow. And okay, so that should be, 9 point, wasn't it? I've got Arial Narrow and Arial Narrow 9 point. So I'm going to get rid of one of them. Text styles appear in your resource manager. So just up here in your resource manager, I should have this one here. I'm just going to delete that one. I don't want that one. Yes, and I'm going to rename this one. Just click in this area here, rename it 9 point. I like to know what size my text styles are because sometimes I can't remember. So I like to name them. So when I create my dimension standard, before I create my dimension standard, I want to go to my document settings and my units. Now where I live, I use feet, I use millimeters and meters, but a lot of people here I think are from overseas. So let's do, I'm going to do millimeters and meters as one of them, but it will change later and we'll do feet and inches and decimal feet. You've always got a unit setting called dual dimensions. So let's say, for example, I like dual dimensions in meters. I like to show the unit mark. I like 3 decimal places. And I like to put the trailing zeros, which is the numbers after the decimal point. My dimensions, I like to be in millimeters. I don't like to show the unit mark. I like to use those. So those are my dimension settings. Now don't forget that if you do swap units a lot, you can save these. So if I save these and I'll call these millimeters. So sometimes when I'm writing my manuals, I have to keep swapping units, and so I'll change these a lot. So this one's going to be feet and inches, which is going to be exact, fractional, rounding to the nearest 1/8 of an inch. Our area wants to be square feet, volume, cubic yards, wherever that's gone, and my dual dimensions, feet only, so these are decimal feet, show the unit mark, decimal rounding, yeah, probably that one, and we will go save, and we'll call this feet and inches. So we'll do that, feet and inches. Now what it means is it's really quick for me to jump between feet and inches now in millimeters, if I want to change my unit types. So we've done that. Now I'm going to create my dimensions, and what I'm going to do, I've just selected my dimension tool. I'm going to go to custom standards, and I'm going to create a new one, and I'll call this one plans. Now normally I spend a bit more time than this on these. I'm just going to quickly go through it. Normally I edit all of these options here. I'm not going to worry about it too much. My linear markers will be a standard that I've chosen, that one. My other markers will be that one. But this is the trick here, where you go, I want to connect the text style of this to Arial Narrow. Go okay, okay. So now when I place a dimension, it'll be using the dimension style that I want if I change this to plans. And you can see it changed the height of things, it changed the slash size of things, which is pretty cool. So if I want always to draw in plans, I choose plans up the top here. Next one I draw, that one will be in plans. So it's quite handy. But my next trick is really to create a new dimension standard, mainly for site plans. So the only time I really use this next one is for site plans. Let's rename this one, we'll call it site plans. Site plans. Someone's just show stack dimensions. So let's go edit that one. This time I'm going to stack them one on top of the other, dual stacked, but sometimes I don't want to see both, so I'm just going to choose secondary only. So otherwise everything's the same, it's a complete copy, it's called site plans. So really if we have a look, if I change this to site plans, you'll see that it changes my dimension from one style to another. But Stephen, the idea of taking control of your dimensions, using exactly the line weight of things that you want, you can see I've got the little fat, or the little thick slash on there. It's got the size that I want. It matches my graphic style before I got a computer. I think it's a good idea to take control of those things. And then if I go back to here and I edit this, and let's say, for example, we don't like aerial narrow, we want to go just to aerial. Let's update our text style. And all of my text updates. So my dimensions update, all my notes will update because they're all using that same text style. And I think that can be really handy. So let's have a look. What have we got here? So there we are, Stephen. You can certainly do what you're suggesting, which is to show the stack dimensions, feet and inches, and then decimal underneath. So if I go back and change these back to my unit settings, back to my units, we saved this earlier, so let's just change that to feet and inches. And you can see it's changed all my dimensions again back to feet and inches. So it's really quick once you've got these set up. These should be part of your template. They can't, or text styles can certainly live in the resource manager, but unit settings don't, and the dimension style doesn't live in the resource manager. So you can copy it from file to file, but it's better to put in your template, and then when you start using it, you've got that. So Stephen, you had some trouble with the door scheduling. So let's have a look here. Is this the door schedule you're having trouble with? And you'll have to tell me what the issue with this is so that we know what we're looking for. But let's right click here and let's go to, let's look at edit report, probably is the one to look at. So you're editing a report, you're looking for objects with a record called door. Let's turn those off. And you're looking to select records like that. So we got door, that should be fine. It should find all of your door objects. And the other thing is to make sure that you've actually got doors. So we're looking for things with a door label. We want to know the door leaf size, the leaf height, the configuration. So let's OK that. Now I can see all those at the moment. So Stephen, what's the question with your door? What does Stephen say? Yeah, I got that. Dimensions. So I think, I'm not sure what I'm supposed to review, Stephen, because particularly this door ID here, I'm not sure you want to have all your door IDs exactly the same. You might want to change some of these and call them something different. The way you've set up your door schedule, Stephen, I would have thought that, for example, you've got 7 of this type of door here, that maybe the idea is for you to have something different about the ID, such as the apartment location or something along those lines. But I noticed that you got 7 of these doors, but they've got different configurations. So I think that you need to be careful about that. You've got all of these set, I think, to summarize. This one here, you might want to do summarize items maybe. If we do that one, now you'll see that you've got, I've actually opened up and I've got more of those so that we've got the opening and that one. These ones have got different sizes. Be careful of that. So you'll need to type, Stephen, tell me what it is. And you only got the top line. So did you see what I did, Stephen? I went to here and I went to edit report, and it brings this up. Just make sure you're collecting the stuff that you want. So objects as a door. I don't like to collect the stuff on the design layer viewports. If you use a design layer viewport anywhere, it will add that information onto your report. So be careful about that. If you want to change these door IDs, don't forget that you can right click on one of these, go select item, and it'll take you Let me just hide that. It'll actually take you to where that door is supposed to be located. And I did see it highlighted for a second there. And it's taken me to here, which is not quite where I wanted to go. So let's do another one. Let's go right click here, select item. That looks better. It's taken me to your floor plan, and it's that door there. And you might want to have a look at this door and have a look at the door ID that you're using for this one. The ID tag, here it is here, here's your door number, and they've all got the same ID tag. I don't know whether you want to change the ID label and call it something else. If you get a lot of doors, for example, if you're doing an apartment building, then sometimes instead of having the door ID like that, you might have the prefix might be the floor number. So first floor, so it's a door, F for the first floor, and then you might have a dash, then you might have apartment number 1, and then a dash, and then it's door number 1. And then you can have door number 1, door number 2, door number 3 for each apartment. They should, so Stephen, you're expecting these to auto report as you make changes. So let's change, we've changed that. Let's enter that. When I go back to the report, it doesn't automatically change that door ID here, but if you click on this green tick, it should update that report. Or you can go recalculate active worksheet, and it should update that. Now you've got the ID number, but not the prefix. So I've changed the prefix, but not the ID. So let's change this one and call it type 1. I think that might do it. Let's go back to our report. So straight away it doesn't change it, but if I go recalculate active worksheet, you can see that type 1 is now down the bottom here. If I change this and call it 04, enter there, then it should update this door over here. You can see just here, it's updated the door number there. So it's instant from the worksheet back the other way, but it's not instant from your drawing back into your worksheet. Yes, the information's there, but you do have to tell the worksheet to recalculate that worksheet again. So it is, if you know where these doors are, then it is really easy to go around and number them. So maybe what you also need to add here with this column, so let's recreate the report. Let's add, it's called the prefix, door prefix. What would it be? It would be ID prefix, wouldn't it? So let's go, I'll type in ID here, which should bring me down to this area here. ID prefix, let's put that in. Let's add that. It adds it to the bottom. I want that added to the top. So I'll just drag it up to the top. Okay, that. And here you can see the changes that I made here, Stephen, where door, first floor, 1, apartment 1, and then it's door 04. So now I can change this to make it door 01, and just here you can see it's changed it on the design layer as well. So that can be quite useful to get those to work together. There was a question about the reference tool, the railing tool. Let's go back to site model. So someone's asking about the railing tool. I'm in a landmark workspace. Let's change back to an architectural one. Even more fun, let's change back to my own one. I know, I better use a standard workspace. It'll be easier for you guys. I customize my workspace all the time. I just, if there's a tool that I start using a lot, for example, let's have a look at, this is my basic workspace, my basic tool set. You'll notice there are tools here that you may not have expected to see. Plus, of course, I've got my own tools here. But let's go back to a standard one so that I don't confuse you with using tools that you guys don't have access to. So what was the question? I've done the stack. Confused about the railing and fence tool. Okay, so Stephen, we got the railing fence tool. It's under furniture for some reason. I don't know why. But there are the two modes here. There's the 2D polygon mode, and this one here's the 3D mode. And the 3D mode is for use on, for if we were doing for example, if we want to do something like a fence, you might use the 3D one on a site model. So let's start with the 2D one first. We've got all of our settings here. This is a handrail system. We might want to import one from somewhere else. I think we've got some fences. I've got a metric fence. Let's have horizontal metric fencing. And if I use the 2D mode, Stephen, I can draw around my site really quickly. So I can go across, I can come down, I can go around. Looks fantastic. It's going to be a fence. It's got all the settings on it. I look in 3D and it's on the ground. Well, that's okay. Why don't we use center surface and we'll just bring it up to sit on the surface of my terrain. So terrain on the, so AC on the menu bar, terrain and center surface. Let's see where it went. Now, I don't know if you noticed, Stephen, but it's not actually cutting into my site. It's flat. It's the 2D object projected. So what we really want is we want our fence and our rail to follow our site. In that case, we must use our 3D version. That's this one here. And then we can start here by clicking on the edge of that site. We click at the other end of the site, click once, and it will create the fence. I think, is it coming? Just let me check to see where that's gone. Oh, it's on the ground again. I might have to update my site model. Let's do that again. I'm not sure I'm not sure it's snapping to these. Let's go update. Right, that's my site. So let's make sure we snap to our site. So the railing and fence tool, 3D. And so what it should do is it should snap to, maybe I can use this bit up here. I should be able to snap to that point there. And I should be able to come down and snap to that point there. Now it should create that at the correct three-dimensional height and not create it on the ground for me. It appears to be creating it on the ground. Railing and fence, the Z value. Oh, that's weird. 2D, 2D and 3D. It should be creating it at the correct 3D height, but it appears not to. 3D line mode, yeah, across the 3D line. I've got that. I don't know, Stephen, have you been having trouble with this as well, Stephen? It not snapping to your model? You can see it's going all the way to the ground. Just make sure I'm not. Let's go to my site. No, I'm in the right one. Active only. Can't see anything else. No, Stephen, you're not allowed to unmute. You have to type your things in. I don't think it's the fence class because I think, let me just check. I'll turn all my classes on. But it's certainly creating my fence, but it seems to be putting my fence directly on the ground. So I don't know if it's a function of this or whether there's something wrong with that tool itself. But when I go there, you can actually see it's there on the ground. Normally what happens is you can create these objects, but it appears to be creating this flat instead of tilting it. So it used to just work for me, but now it's not. I don't know what the answer is, Stephen. It seems to be giving me a fight. I'll do an easier question, I think. I've had a question from someone about the heliodon. I need to provide the city with solar analysis for a project. Lakshmi, is that you? So what we'd like to do, Lakshmi, can you tell me what city you're in? What we need is we need Google Earth to find your city location. Maps, Google Maps will do. Can you give me your city location? San Jose, California. So let's go to Google Maps. I'm going to go San Jose. Okay, so somewhere in this area here, I don't think it makes a heck of a lot of difference. Google Maps is probably, I'm not sure if Google Maps is going to give me exactly what I want, but Google Earth certainly will. What Google Earth does, I need to hide, there we are. Because what we really need is we need our geolocation or our graphic location. I'm not sure I've got Google Earth on here. Let's search Google Earth. We'll start Google Earth up. It'll take a little while to get started. Let's launch the Earth, and we'll go to San Jose again. Because what we need is our latitude and longitude. Now, if you do sailing, most people that sail know exactly where they are without me even asking. They can give me their latitude and longitude, and it's the latitude and longitude you need to use the heliodon. So we're going to search. It always keeps looking where I live. This is the part of the planet I live on. San Jose. So it's obviously reading my location. So it's going to zoom out. Now, just down the bottom, Lakshmi, you can see there's our coordinates here. These are our latitude and longitude. So as we zoom in, you'll see the latitude and longitude change. There we are there. We've got 37 degrees, 20, what's that? 37 degrees, 20 minutes, 25 seconds. So let's go back to our heliodon. Here's a heliodon tool here. Go to our settings. It's USA, let's edit the city, and it's San Jose. And what's its latitude? Its latitude is 37, I'm not sure I can do the 37 space 20 space 25. I'm not sure it'll figure that one out for me. I might have to put in the decimal amounts. And it's 122.47.44. So it's 122.47.44. Let's add that. The name of the city already exists. So when you go update, it's going to change that. So just be careful about that. Let's go back to the settings. Let's look for San Jose. Here it is here. And you can see it's already got it there, 37.33 degrees, 122.88, which is about right. If a city doesn't exist, you can edit the city. You can put in your own city here if you like. And then you can set the time zone, and then that will work from there on. So those of you that if you live in a place that there might not be a whole lot of cities, I'm fortunate my city's actually here already. So if I change this to where I live, New Zealand, for some reason my city's not a big one, but they put my city in. I must be known. And that's where I live in the other hemisphere. So Lakshmi, that's how you can put your own city in. Let's have a look. I'm sorry, Stephen, I wasn't able to solve the 3D poly. And we've got another question. Where can I find basic trees and plants for landscapes and renderings? Well, you need to have the designer. So let's go, I'll change to landmarks. I've got the designer works. Let's go to the designer workspace. So Richard, I know you've got the designer workspace. So we'll go to the tools. We'll go to the designer workspace because you need to use the plant tool. You can create your own plants if you want, but you should find it here under the site planning, I think it is, tool set. And here when you look at a style, so here if I choose a plant style, so by default, you have all of these plants. And I know it might appear to you to be some sort of random collection of plants, but for people who do landscaping, they quite often like to have these set out in this way, because all my ground covers are together. If you want to bring them together into one file, then start a plant library file and then import each of these plants so that you've got it in a single file to use. I know it does appear that they're all over the resources, but from Vectorworks' point of view, they think that they've organized these neatly. but each of these plants is in a separate file. They used to have all of the plants together in one file, but over the years they've decided to change these. We don't use a whole lot of phoenix palms, but you can see there's a lot of plants here that for you to use, Richard, straight away. Deciduous trees. So you just start, if you select that and then place one in this file, it will import it into this file. So you're gonna have to wait to download these. And then obviously place one of these in your file. There it is there, that's a deciduous one. Then go and choose the next one that you want to use. And they quite often store these using their botanical name. I think this is a liquid amber, I think. A magnolia. Some of these I recognize. I'm not a great plant landscaper, but some of them I recognize, and that should be a magnolia. And when I go to a 3D view, they should be sitting on my site. So you might notice that when you use an actual plant, Richard, they sit on the site model. So the plant tool actually reads the site model and sits them on top of it, which is quite a cool trick. So if you really want to have all of the plants together, my suggestion is to spend a little bit of time and bring all those in one at a time. You can't bring them all in together, but what you can do is once you've brought them in, just choose the ones you want. For example, I don't like using those ones in my gardens. The agave tend to take over. So you just go through and pick the ones that you like. I think some of the ones that I tend to use, carrots are quite handy for ground cover, but where I live, there are particular plants that are not listed here, and so I need to sometimes make my own. We got the magnolia. So just notice, Richard, once I've used that plant, it's actually downloaded the file into my library, and so it'll be quicker to get that plant out again. Pine trees, vines, some of these I think it's just a pine tree, that one. There's a bunch of pine trees. Citrus, so you could have some oranges, lemon tree. So you can just add the ones that you like to use. And one of the cool tricks, Richard, is if you use one of these plants, I'll go back to a top plan view. So this one, everywhere you click, it will place that plant. So you click there, it puts one, this mode. Everywhere you click, it places one plant. So you can place, every time you click, it places another one, double click to finish, and they should be now scattered across my site model, and they'll all be sitting on the site model as well. So if you have a look, they're actually sitting perfectly on the ground, which is a really cool trick. So for doing your renderings, it's quite handy to make sure that you're using something like plants to stick them on there. If you're using a symbol, because the other thing you can use, of course, is an image prop. And if you're using image props and they're not sitting on the surface of your site model, just select them and use that send to surface. So Barbara, we've still got half the time left, and there's I don't know if there's a whole lot of questions.
No, so yeah, well, let's just wait a few minutes.
So Stephen Stephen's is able to get his fence to work in 3D, but only one segment at a time. Stephen, welcome to the railing fence tool. In 3D, it only does one segment at a time. And so what you have to do with your plant, with your railing and fence tool, is when you've done one segment, I'm back in the landscape workspace. So if I go to the railing fence tool, what you have to do, Stephen, is you have to create the fence, but not put the end post on. So here, when we go to post, you're going to turn off the post-it end. Now you notice I've lost all my rails, all my bits in between. So I've got to go here and I've got to say extend frame to that one. I've got to extend this to the start end of the path. And so now it'll put one in at a time. So if you do a long run, you'll end up with posts, but it won't put a post at the end, Stephen. And then you can, when you click to start the next segment, it'll put the post at the end and then start the next segment. And I think that when you get to the, unless you get to the back to where you started, at some point you're going to have to add that extra end post back on again. I'm not a big fan of this particular railing and fence tool. In New Zealand, we used to have a different one that was made by the Australian distributor, where you would click along the site model, Stephen, and then you'd say send a surface, and it would send each of the clicks to the surface of your site model, but you could draw the whole 3D in one go, like you can with the 2D portion. So we've done the dimensions. Shall I delete some of these? I'll delete some of these questions. So Barbara, you might want to pause the movie just at the moment, and we'll just talk about what we're going to do next.
Okay.
And then I'll just start deleting some of these. So let's get rid of that one. Done that one. So Richard, did I answer your question about, did I answer your question about the plants? I hope so. Got that one. Oh, there's one showing section in plan and elevation. I haven't done that one. Railing and fence tool. Heliodon we've done. Okay, so okay, so we've got some follow-up questions here. There's a series of brick openings, so there are some more questions coming. I need to delete some of these questions. Lakshmi, can we come back to your one with the heliodon tool? How much do we need to know about the address? So the address, even if you're in the same block, the change in the sun is going to be so slight, I don't think you'll notice. But you need to generate the plans and did you say you need to generate the shadows in plan view? I was able to insert the heliodon, but I can't generate the recording's still going, isn't it, Barbara?
Sorry, Jonathan?
Is the recording still going?
Yeah.
Okay, so Lakshmi, you were trying to generate the plans. So one of the things you might have to do is to put something in here, and you might notice when I go to a top view, not top plan view, we'll go to a top view, we'll use orthogonal projection. So there it is, you can now see my shadows in plan view. And if I select my heliodon, I can set the time of the day. Let's set this to 12 p.m. There's my shadow at 12 p.m. You can see the sun's coming across, the sun's coming across in this direction. There's my tree, the shadow's going across. Why don't you make a viewport from that? So we're going to create a viewport like this. And we'll make that into a layer object so I can make a viewport from that. So now we're going to create a viewport from this. I'm going to put on a sheet layer. I might need to make this 1 to 200. Oh, I didn't use my object, did I? Let's go back. Okay, so let's create that object there. We'll make that on screen plane just to make sure. And we'll go view, create viewport. Do you want the selected object? Yes. 1 to 200 will make it. OpenGL rendering, okay. And then we update that. So I should see the shadows this time. You can see that, Lakshmi, you can see the shadows there. So you need those shadows, but what you also want to be able to do is to see maybe the house plan. I'm going to create a copy of this over here. I'm going to change this to a top plan view. So ideally what you'd like to see is both those together. Now I'm not sure that it's going to be possible to see them both together, so I'll just see what I can do with that. So when I put one on top of the other, you can't see one. If I send one to the back, you can't see the other. But you might find that by changing some of the preferences on here, maybe you can start to change, for example, we might be able to apply image effects. We might be able to do soft edges on it to get something to show up. You want to have both. I'll send that to the back. So this is my site plan here. So one of the other things you might do is with the classes on here, you could turn, for example, the contours off. So if I've got a site model, we might find that through the site modeling system, I've created whether I want to have the site model have a solid background to it or not. You might have a play with that. Let me see if I can do that. Floor 1, plot plan view. There it is. What happens if we go none? So now I've got a see-through site model. And if I go back to my sheet layer, there we are. So you can actually see now my site plan contours, my 2D trees, and you can see the shadow in 3D as well. And if I had a building, the building would appear as a solid building. So I'm using 2 viewports. This is an old trick I sometimes use with 2 viewports, one on top of the other, so that I can see different information in each viewport, which I thought was quite a fun trick to do. So I've done that. 3D fence. Let's have a look. So Lakshmi, does that answer your question about that project? Preference list. I hope that's answered. And let me just have a look. Richard, you've sent me a picture. I didn't want to open my email just at the moment, Richard. I don't know if I can do it in the middle of the movie. Generate plans. I hope that, so that plans in, I think that does plans. I hope you guys think that's okay to generate the plans that way to get those generated. We've got working in 2D view, details disappear when I scroll depending on the point I start from. Yeah, I'm not sure about that. So Stephen G, I had a question from you about section tool showing on plan and elevation. How? So if I have a look at this project here, Stephen, so you want me to see, let's see if I can zoom out. Maybe I'll just have a look at one of these. So let's have a look. So on here, on elevations, you want to see where the section is in elevation, is that right? So you want to see here where my section lines go through. Let me just have a look. Let me go back to my section. And that, first of all, Stephen, what I need to know is I need to know the name of this layer here. Sorry, the name of this viewport, which is elevation A. That's easy enough. Let's go back to our section, and we'll have a look at this section here, and we'll choose, where's it gone? Section line instances. So where does the section line appear? Have I got an elevation A there? So I've got a viewport called elevation A. Let's okay that. And let's go back to elevations. Now elevation A should show that section line through here, but it's not showing it. But that's what you should do. So do you want to try that, Stephen? Make sure that your sections are showing up. Let's go back to that section there. And it's the section line instances we want to look at. This button here at the bottom. Viewports, we want it to show up in elevation A. And let's choose all of them and see what happens. And there's one there called section line instruments, and then it's got activate. But it's not showing up in that view. So I don't know what else to change. Oh, maybe that's a crop problem. Let's edit the crop or delete the crop. No, it doesn't seem to be a crop issue for me. To me, it's just not there. I'll try updating it, see if that does anything, but I'm not sure that's going to be the issue. I just don't see the section reference. The 2021 feature I thought was these grid labels. The grids show up in plan and elevation, but they don't show up in my sections. So if we go back to my section, you'll see that my grids are not showing up. Let's have a look here. You see my grids are not showing up in my sections. And I don't know if it's because my section's not perfectly cut through or what. Let's go back to that elevation. Let me try creating another one, Stephen, see if it's the way that I created it. So view, create section viewport. Let's create one through there. We'll look that way. And click again. Where's it gone? So double click. Okay, so let's put on the elevations layer anyway, on the elevations sheet. Now there it is, Stephen, it's shown up. So when I cut it through, there, it shows up at the right place. And if we go back to here, section 9 instances, viewports, it's showing up in elevation A. If I turn that off, it disappears. Let's turn it back on again. It turns back on again. It might be that I need to cut my sections through that to work, or it might be that I have updated this from Vectorworks 2020, and therefore the section's not showing up properly. So if I'm afraid to delete that section. I think I've got a whole lot of details in it. But let's create a new section. So I'll use that viewport. I'll create a section viewport through there. We'll go through there, and we'll look this way. And we'll put on the floor plan. We'll put on the elevation section again. Okay, so I've got two sections, one there and one there. And we'll go section 9 instances. Let's turn that on for elevation A. Okay. And let's have a look at elevations again. So it's there, Stephen. It's turning up where it should do. Not exactly where I wanted it to be, so I really need to move that to the right height. I also don't want to have, gapped line will be fine. I want that to be a partial section. Get rid of that one at the other end. And maybe make that line slightly shorter. When I delete this one, it should only just affect that label, nothing else. And if we go back to the other drawing, so that's looking all right, Stephen. It does work, but obviously it didn't work for me, and I suspect it's because I updated the file, the way that I updated the file. But you can see I've also done a bit of work in this section. I've drawn extra bits and pieces in here. I don't want to delete this section until I've actually got rid of the or fix the stuff that I want. All of these are drawn on top of the model. So all these parts are not automatically put in there. This is a symbol, I think, that I've created because I like my sections to show a little bit more detail about the way the building's constructed. So when we move this, does it affect the elevation? So mine's not being affected, Stephen, if I move that elevation around. But maybe if I edit the crop, it might be. So it should link together. When I move it, it changes. Okay. And it should show up in the plan as well. I didn't check the plan, did I? So this one here, section 9 instances, viewports. I can't remember what my plan is called. Oh, floor plan viewport. That'll be a good name for it. Let's have a look to see if it's in my floor plan. There it is. It's all the way up here because I moved it. So let's go back to here. If I move that back to there, does that affect my elevations? And you can see it's moved this label as well, which is a bit annoying. So what I tend to do, because of this connection between them, is to, now that I've got that, and if I move it, it's going to be a pain. So what I'll do is I will use the other section reference tool, which is, maybe I'll use the reference marker. This one here creates a section line as well. So let's create a section line there, looking that way. And we'll make this a gapped line. Let's get rid of the gapped line. We'll make it a partial section again. Okay, so what I need to do, Stephen, I need to link this marker to that section. So now what I do is I go up here, linked viewport. Can you see just here, Stephen? Linked viewport, we're going to link that to 06, which I think is that one. One on 06. Now, because now I can get rid of that part. So this is a linked marker. If I move that section to another location, if we go back to our section, which I think is here, let's move that section to a different place. Let's move that to my electrical drawing. No reason why I'd need to move it to my electrical drawing, but I can. So let's have a look at my electrical drawing. My section should be here. And we'll change its drawing number. Its drawing number is now number 2. Now, if I go back and have a look at that elevation, this reference here should now say drawing number 2 on drawing 12, which it does. So that would be the other way to do it, so that you can connect these things together. So although that's just a dumb label, it's not as dumb as you think, because it is connected to my section. Now, you know that you might move this a few inches one way or the other. It probably won't have be a difference, but at least it's linked. So if you do change anything about that, it does, all the things do work their way through. While we're talking about these labels, Stephen, I've been working on this project, which is a nice little structural engineering project, and you might notice that I've changed my labels so they've all got a bold number 2 with the drawing number underneath. And so I've gone through editing these labels so that they're now much more consistent, and they're all stored here in my resource manager, so that you can see I've got data tags, and I've got detailed callouts, and I've got drawing label styles, and they're working together really nicely now. I think that I've got a graphic style that I'm really happy about. I'm controlling the line weights on them. So if we go back to this detailed callout styles here, let's edit this one. We'll edit the marker layout. And you can see here I've actually linked this to a bold. It's 10-point bold, and this one is Helvetica light, but it's 9-point, it's not bold. And I've chosen the line weight around here, which I think I've chosen as about 0.18 or something. Where's my palettes? Attributes. Yeah, 0.18 pen. This one in the middle here, this should also be 0.18 pen. So by changing, these are the smart markers, I've now got a lot more control. These are all looking identical, which is quite cool. Okay, so that was the section elevation question. Jim, I'm not going to answer your question until Barbara stops the movie, I don't think. A preview? Oh, okay, so is there a way to get a 3D preview of the plants? That's what you're asking, isn't it, Richard? So when you go to the plant tool, not the existing tree tool, when you go to the plant tool and you look at this style here, you may not get the preview, what you expect straight away, but once you've imported them, then of course in your resource manager, you can change the preview of them in the resource manager. So you can change the, did we import some of those? Where's the trees? If you right click on some of these trees, you can go view as No, I'm in the wrong file, aren't I? So I've got to go to my site model file to do this. So can we say set thumbnail view to right isometric, and then set thumbnail render to OpenGL. I don't know if that's any better. It's still kind of over here. Sorry, there is a better way to do that. Over here, if you set this to right isometric and rendered, you get a much better view. And the bigger you make that area, you might get enough impression for you to be able to see what you need. So I've done the 3D view, series of openings in a brick wall. I'm sorry, I don't understand about the brick walls. You sent me a picture. I can't open my file just at the moment. Yeah, I think I've answered that one about the plants. Section line class on. Jim, because of the way that references are created or the way the references are controlled, we shouldn't have to turn the class on for that label. It should just show up if we use that show it, you know, the section line instances. It's no longer the way it used to be. Is there a way to save 2-page setups for a given sheet? No, not for a given sheet layer. You can only have one. So what you're asking for is this one here. You're asking for page setup. You want a different page setup like this for each sheet. I'm afraid you can't do that. Oh, my question's just popped out. You can only do it one at a time. But what I would suggest you do is, if you want two setups, why don't you duplicate a sheet layer and then set up the duplicate. So now we're on this duplicate. Now set this one to a different size so that you can do a reduced print. Since they're viewports, they will be identical. How do you do general notes in 2 columns? I don't have any general notes, Richard, but you just choose columns in the general notes. Where's general notes? It should be in here somewhere, shouldn't it? General notes. I can't remember where general notes are. But in general notes, I think over here you can actually just choose 2 columns, and that should do it. We're getting on for time. Oh, we did find something to talk about. How do you modify roof faces? Sorry, Gail, I can't make changes to that. Type F and of course, Stephen, I should have used this thing, shouldn't I? Type F and go general notes. Now I've got to learn how to spell general notes. It says it's in dims and notes. Oh, there it is. I'm blind. Let's add some notes. Have I got a note I can use? Oh, yeah, let's use this one. So let's add that one. We'll add another one, add that one, add another one. Add building wrap. Okay, that should be enough general notes, I think, wherever it's gone. There we are. And you should be able to just go over here, and isn't there a number of columns? Just here, Richard, number of columns, 2 columns. I keep forgetting about that F for the general notes. The thing that annoys me, Stephen, is that F used to be one of my snaps, which is no longer a snap. Can modify roof faces? I think we've run out of time. Those of you that do subscribe to my website, there's a couple here already. Roof faces, roof accessories, roofs and roof accessories. It goes through everything I know about making roofs and roof accessories. But the one thing I wanted to show people, Stephen, I don't know if you've noticed, I've now got my fundamentals course on my knowledge base. So Stephen, it used to be that you'd have to go somewhere else and find it. So I've now updated this to Vectorworks 2021. So all these movies now are for 2021. I forget how many there are, but there's 25 or something movies that I've created. So module 1 is all about the stuff that we do at the beginning, and we gradually work our way through. So Barbara, I think that's probably it for today.
Yeah, we did find something to talk about after all.
Yeah, isn't that nice?
Wonderful. Yeah, the webinar attendees never fail to get the conversation going.
Thank you everyone who came. Thanks for you guys who asked questions.
Yeah, I'm going to make a transition to my screen quickly and remind everybody that I've shared with you the special promo code for $100 discount. Look in the chat box and you'll receive it also in the mailer that I'm going to send out later with the webinar recording. I want to remind you, this is where you find the new Vectorworks Architect. Vectorworks, actually everything, 2021 and novices.com. And we have a special promotion now where if you have a VSS subscription, you can get another license for 50% off. And also you can upgrade for 15% off. Any questions, call us, email us. Our phone number is on every page of our website. So thank you so much, Jonathan, for today's Q&A. Looking forward already to the next one. Have a great rest of the day.
Thanks for having me, Barbara.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for